It began like any other quiet Sunday morning. The coffee brewed softly, sunlight filtered through gauzy curtains, and laughter drifted from the kitchen where Claire flipped pancakes. Her sister Emily had come to stay for a few weeks, just until she sorted things out, whatever that meant. Claire didn't ask too many questions. Emily had always been the free-spirited one, the wanderer. But lately, there was a tremble in her smile, a twitch in her gaze. Claire's husband, David, noticed it too. That morning, while reaching for his mug, he whispered, "She's hiding something." Claire chuckled nervously, brushing it off, but a cold drop slid down her spine. She caught Emily watching them from the hallway, motionless, as if caught between rooms and decisions. Something had shifted. What had begun as hospitality now felt like the quiet before a storm. And in that frozen silence, something unspoken breathed between them. Later that afternoon, Claire sat in the sunroom reading, though her eyes barely followed the words. She could hear Emily upstairs, pacing. Something about her sister's presence felt heavier than usual, like it came with luggage she hadn't unpacked, not just the leather suitcase by the door. David stepped in with 2 glasses of iced tea, placed one beside her, and sat quietly. After a long pause he said, "She had bruises. On her arm. I saw them this morning." Claire looked up sharply, pulse quickening. "Did you ask her?" David shook his head, eyes narrowed. "She saw me see them. Didn't say a word, just pulled her sleeve down." The air grew thick. Claire's fingers tightened on her book. Suddenly, the quiet afternoon felt like a cage. Dinner was awkward. Claire prepared a roast, and they ate with the clink of silverware echoing too loudly. Emily hardly spoke. When asked how her job hunt was going, she offered a vague, "It's okay," and stabbed at her carrots. David watched her like a hawk. Claire noticed Emily's sleeve riding up as she reached for the salt. And there they were, faint purplish bruises along her forearm. Emily noticed and froze. Slowly, she drew her arm back, eyes darting toward David. He didn't look away. Claire swallowed hard. Something was unraveling, and they were all pretending not to see it. The meal continued, but so did the silence, louder than any scream. After dinner, Claire found herself outside, barefoot on the porch, gripping a mug of tea gone cold. The night was quiet, but not peaceful. She stared out at the stars, trying to map out her thoughts. Emily used to be radiant, wild even. Now, she moved like a shadow. Claire heard the door creak behind her. David joined her in silence. "I think she's in trouble," he said finally. Claire didn't answer. She was thinking about the last time she saw Emily cry. It was 10 years ago at their mother's funeral. And even then, she hadn't sobbed. She had simply vanished after the burial for 2 days. Claire took a slow sip and asked the wind, "What kind of trouble?" Emily stood in the guest room, staring at her reflection. She pulled up her sleeve and examined the bruises, faded but still vivid enough to remember. Her breath hitched as she pressed a finger to one of them. The pain wasn't just physical. On the dresser sat a phone with unread messages, a small notebook with crossed-out pages, and a single photograph face down. She picked it up. In it, she and a man smiled beneath a tree. She studied his face, jaw clenched. Slowly, she slid it into her bag and zipped it shut. A knock startled her. She shoved the bag under the bed. "You okay?" Claire's voice. Emily stared at the door, then said, "Yeah, just tired." Lies always sounded softest at night. Claire sat at the kitchen island, phone in hand, scrolling through an old text thread with Emily. The timestamps told stories, months of silence, sudden bursts of affection, apologies with no explanations. She couldn't shake the feeling that Emily hadn't come here just for a break. David entered, pausing when he saw the phone. "Looking for answers?" he asked. Claire nodded. "She used to tell me everything. Now I don't even know what she's running from." David leaned closer. "Maybe she isn't running. Maybe she's hiding." Claire looked up, troubled. The air between them thickened. David lowered his voice. "Last night after you went to bed, I heard her crying." Claire's grip on the phone tightened. She hadn't heard anything. But maybe that was the point. Emily had always known how to weep in silence. Emily walked briskly down the street that afternoon, coat collar pulled high, eyes darting. She checked over her shoulder more than once. Claire had insisted she take a break, clear her head, but Emily wasn't out for fresh air. She had a destination. She stopped at a payphone, a relic in their quiet suburb. Digging a slip of paper from her pocket, she dialed a number and waited. One ring. 221. Then a robotic voicemail. "You've reached Marcus. Leave it." She froze. Her lips parted, but no words came. Then she hung up. Emily leaned against the phone booth, breath trembling. Her eyes filled and she whispered to herself, "He's not going to stop, is he?" She wiped her tears quickly. She wasn't ready to go back yet. Not to the house, not to them. Not with this. Back at the house, David paced the living room. He stopped by the window, watching Emily's figure disappear around the corner. He wasn't just worried, he was suspicious. Pulling out his phone, he opened the security app. He had quietly installed cameras last year after a break-in scare, but the system caught more than burglars. He scrolled through past footage. Then he paused. Emily, in the dead of night, outside in the backyard, barefoot, clutching something to her chest. He enhanced the frame. It was a framed photo. David frowned. What kind of midnight ritual was this? He zoomed in further. The expression on Emily's face wasn't fear, it was grief. But it was also guilt. He knew it then. This wasn't about just running from something. She was tangled in something she'd helped create. Claire sat with Emily that evening on the edge of her bed, trying to bridge the silence between them. "Is someone hurting you?" she asked softly. Emily looked away. Claire touched her arm. "I saw the bruises." A long beat. Then Emily sighed. "It's not what you think." Her voice was thin. "Then help me understand," Claire pleaded. Emily shook her head. "If I tell you, you'll hate me." Claire's voice cracked. "There's nothing you could say that would make me do that." Emily gave a half smile, eyes glistening. "You always say that." Claire leaned in, brushing hair from her sister's face. "Then test me." But Emily said nothing more. She turned off the lamp, crawled under the covers, and curled away. Claire sat in the dark a little longer, listening to the weight of words unspoken. That night, David stood alone in the backyard, arms crossed, the cold biting at his skin. The stars above offered no clarity. He replayed everything. Her bruises, the late-night sobbing, the photo, the call. Claire thought this was about pain. But David sensed danger. He glanced toward the fence. Just past it was the spot where he'd seen Emily crouched on the footage. He walked there. The soil was slightly disturbed. Curiosity got the better of him. He knelt, fingers brushing away loose dirt. Something metallic caught the moonlight, a small rusted tin box. He pried it open. Inside, torn photographs, a stained letter, and a flash drive. He stood frozen. Whatever secrets Emily buried, they were no longer safe underground. David sat at his desk in the study, the flash drive plugged into his laptop. The screen flickered to life, revealing a series of encrypted folders. Most were password protected, except one. It opened to reveal several videos. He clicked the first. The footage was shaky, filmed with a phone. Emily was in a dim room, arguing with a man whose voice was sharp, threatening. David leaned in. "You don't walk away from this," the man hissed. Emily replied, "You don't own me." The camera tilted just as something crashed off screen. David paused it, breath shallow. Claire's voice from behind startled him. "What are you watching?" He quickly minimized the screen. "Just work." But his eyes betrayed him. Claire studied him. He knew that look. And now, she knew he was lying. Emily stood in the bathroom, staring at herself in the mirror. She didn't recognize the reflection. The bruises had faded, but the fear clung like a second skin. Her fingers trembled as she applied concealer under her eyes. A flash of the man's voice echoed in her mind. If you ever talk, I'll ruin you. She clenched the sink's edge. The memory wouldn't stop playing. His grip, the yelling, the manipulation. But now someone else knew. She was sure David had seen the flash drive. She'd felt the air shift. He was watching her more closely. She needed to decide, run again, or finally face the truth. But she feared both roads ended in the same place, destruction. Claire sat on the couch with a blanket wrapped around her, phone in hand. She'd gone through every social media profile she could find connected to Emily's past. Friends, exes, former colleagues. Then she found him. Marcus. The man from the photo David had seen. His profile was private, but one tagged photo stopped her breath. Emily, 3 months ago, her arm looped through Marcus, both smiling under string lights. The comments were odd. Didn't expect to see you together again, one read. Claire's gut turned. She opened another app and began typing his name. Court records. News articles. A police report surfaced. Assault. Dropped charges. Name redacted. But the date matched. Claire stared at the screen, her heart pounding. Emily hadn't left Marcus. She'd escaped him. That night, David finally confronted Emily. She was alone in the kitchen, drying dishes with mechanical precision. I know about Marcus, he said quietly. Her hands stopped moving. Slowly, she turned to face him. You shouldn't have gone through my things. David's voice was firm. You left it buried. What else was I supposed to think? Emily's eyes filled, but her voice stayed steady. He told me if I talked, he'd come for Claire next. David took a step closer. He's not here. You're safe now. She shook her head. You don't understand the kind of power he has. David lowered his voice. Then help me understand. Let me help you end this. Her chin trembled. You can't. It's already started. The silence that followed was heavy, final. And David knew, whatever storm was coming, it had already crossed their threshold. Claire couldn't sleep. She walked the hallway, floor creaking beneath her bare feet, passing the guest room door. Inside, she heard whispering. Carefully, she leaned in. Emily's voice. I didn't tell them everything. Not yet. A pause. Claire's breath caught. Who was she talking to? She knocked. Silence. Then Emily opened the door, startled. Claire tried to smile. Couldn't sleep. Emily nodded. Me neither. Claire glanced around. No phone in sight. No headset. But Emily's cheeks were flushed. Something was still being hidden. Claire hesitated. You're not alone in this, Em. Emily nodded again, too quickly. I know. But her voice betrayed her. Claire knew that tone. She'd heard it when they were kids, every time Emily lied to cover a scraped knee or broken rule. Some things never changed. Claire couldn't ignore it any longer. The weight of David's silence, Emily's evasions, and the secrets clawing at the walls, it was suffocating. She sat David down in the study. I need the truth, she said, voice shaking. All of it. David sighed, rubbed his face, and pulled out the flash drive. He played the video. Claire watched, frozen. The confrontation between Emily and Marcus played out with horrifying clarity, threats, manipulation, and fear thick in every frame. Claire clutched her chest. Why didn't she tell me? David whispered. She was protecting you. Claire stared at the pause screen, eyes filling. She shouldn't have had to. In that moment, the picture of her sister shattered. The truth wasn't just dark. It was violent. And now, it was theirs to carry. Emily sat alone on the porch, wrapped in a thick blanket, cigarette burning low between her fingers. She hadn't smoked in years. Her gaze was distant, fixed on nothing. Claire stepped outside quietly. No words at first, just the sound of night. Finally, Claire said, I saw the video. Emily flinched but didn't look over. I didn't want you to know. Claire sat beside her. He threatened me too, didn't he? Emily nodded slowly, tears welling. He said if I ever left he'd come after you, hurt you. I stayed because I thought I could keep him away from you. Claire reached over, took her sister's hand. You don't have to protect me alone anymore. Emily broke down, sobs catching in her throat. For the first time, the truth had been spoken aloud. The next morning, David drove out alone. He needed answers of his own. Parking outside a weathered apartment complex, he checked the address again. Marcus's last known location. He stepped inside, tense and alert. The hallway smelled of mildew and dust. Apartment 4B. He knocked. No answer. But the door creaked open. Unlocked. Inside, the place was a mess. Broken picture frames, cigarette butts, papers strewn across the floor. Then, a sound. A faint click. David turned. A camera mounted in the corner, light blinking. He stared into the lens. Someone was watching. He backed away, heart pounding. Whoever Marcus was, he hadn't vanished. He was waiting. And now he knew they were coming for him. David returned shaken. Claire met him at the door, eyes searching his face. What did you find? He handed her a photo. A blurry surveillance still of Marcus in the hallway. He is still around, watching. Claire's blood ran cold. Emily stood behind them, listening. He has cameras, she asked, voice hoarse. David nodded. At least one. Emily turned pale. He told me he'd always know where I was. Claire grabbed her arm. We'll go to the police. But Emily shook her head. He's careful, smart. You won't find him unless he wants you to. David clenched his jaw. Then we'll make him come to us. Emily looked between them, the first spark of hope and fear colliding in her eyes. The hunted were becoming hunters. That night, the house didn't sleep. David reviewed footage from the security cams again. Claire checked locks twice, and Emily sat at the window, watching the dark. A storm rolled in slowly, distant thunder, flashes of lightning breaking the silence. Emily clutched a blanket around her shoulders, eyes locked on the tree line. She thought she saw movement. Her breath caught. Then it was gone. Or had it been there at all? Downstairs, David armed the alarm system. Claire whispered, "He knows we're ready now." David didn't respond. Outside, a single car slowed as it passed their house. Inside, the air was thick with anticipation. The confrontation wasn't just coming. It had already begun. The next morning, Emily sat at the kitchen table, pale and quiet. Claire poured coffee but didn't speak. David entered holding a printed email. "He's coming," he said. Emily looked up, eyes wide. "What do you mean?" David laid the paper in front of her. It was an anonymous message. "You think you're safe? I always find you." Claire read it silently, fists tightening. "How did he get our address?" Emily whispered. David didn't answer, but the fear in his eyes said enough. Emily stood abruptly. "I should leave. It's not safe for you." Claire grabbed her wrist. "We're not letting you go through this alone." Emily's voice cracked. "You don't know what he's capable of." David's jaw tensed. "Then, let's show him what we're capable of." David drove to the local police station, clutching the flash drive like a detonator. Inside he met with Officer Ramirez, who listened patiently but remained cautious. "Without direct threat or physical harm, we can't do much," she said. David leaned forward, voice low. "He's stalking her, he's here, and he's escalating." Ramirez tapped the folder. "We'll flag him, start a watch, but if you want real protection, you'll need evidence he's near." David's jaw clenched. "We'll get it." As he walked out, the flash drive felt heavier than ever. The law was slow. But Marcus wasn't. And if no one else would stop him, David would. Even if it meant going beyond the lines. Emily packed a small bag again. Only essentials this time. Claire entered the room, watching her. "You're leaving?" she asked softly. Emily nodded. "He found me, Claire. He always does." Claire stepped closer. "Then let's stop running." Emily sat on the bed, tears pooling. You don't understand. He doesn't just stalk. He breaks you from the inside. He isolates you until you forget who you were. Claire knelt in front of her. But he didn't break you. You're still here. You fought your way back. Emily looked at her sister, voice barely audible. I'm scared. Claire took her hand. So am I. But being scared doesn't mean we hide. It means we fight together. For the first time, Emily didn't pull away. That evening, David reviewed the security feed again, and froze. A black car had stopped across the street for nearly 5 minutes, headlights off. A blurry figure stepped out, walked a few steps, then disappeared off camera. David rewound, enhanced the frame. It wasn't clear, but the shape, the height, it matched Marcus. He rushed upstairs, showed Claire, and Emily. Emily's breath hitched. That's him. Claire's eyes filled with panic. David's voice was cold steel. I'm setting a trap. Emily whispered. If he comes inside. David locked eyes with her. He won't get the chance. That night, they moved the cameras, adjusted the locks, loaded the video feed onto their phones. They weren't waiting anymore. The house was no longer a shelter. It was a fortress. At 3:12 a.m., a sound shattered the silence, metal clinking against glass. Claire bolted upright. David was already out of bed, rushing downstairs. Emily stood frozen in the hallway, eyes wide with fear. David flung the door open, nothing. Porch empty. But on the doormat sat an envelope. Inside, a single photo. Emily sleeping. Claire holding a mug. David in the yard. All taken from afar. David's hands shook. He's been watching us for days. Emily sank to the floor, whispering, He's here. Claire knelt beside her, voice fierce. Then let him come. We're not afraid of him anymore. David stared out into the night. No wind. No motion. Just a darkness that felt too close. Too patient. But they weren't prey anymore. They were awake. Claire sat alone at the kitchen table, phone pressed to her ear. Detective Myers, please call me back. It's urgent. She hung up, hands trembling. Across from her sat the envelope, its contents burned into her memory. David entered, jaw clenched. He's escalating, he said. Claire nodded. He's not going to stop until someone forces him to. From upstairs came Emily's voice. Then let's force him. She appeared in the doorway, holding the flash drive. We go public. Claire stood. That could expose everything. Our address, your face. Emily looked straight at her. I'd rather face the world than hide from him another day. Her voice was steel. And for the first time, Claire saw not the victim, but the survivor. The one who'd had enough. David helped Emily set up the upload. The video would go out with a timed release. Encrypted, untraceable. Once this goes out, David said, there's no going back. Emily didn't flinch. I know. As he clicked the timer into place, Emily spoke softly. He said no one would believe me. That I didn't look like a victim. David glanced over. Then, let them see the truth. She smiled, just barely. He always said the truth would ruin me. David locked eyes with her. No, it will ruin him. The screen flashed, scheduled. 24 hours. The countdown had begun. In that moment, silence fell over them. Not fear, but certainty. This wasn't revenge. It was liberation. And once it started, there would be no stopping it. Later that day, Emily and Claire sat outside, sun breaking through the clouds for the first time in days. They didn't talk. Just watched the breeze shift through the trees. Emily finally whispered, Do you think people will believe me? Claire looked at her. I believe you. That's enough to start. Emily nodded. I used to think silence was strength. That if I didn't cry or break, he couldn't win. Claire reached over. Surviving is strength, but speaking is war. Emily smiled faintly, a tear slipping down her cheek. Then I guess I'm ready to fight. The sun hit her face, and in its light her scars didn't disappear, but they didn't define her either. She was reclaiming herself, one breath at a time. That night, Claire heard something. A soft, metallic click near the back door. She woke David instantly. Together they moved through the house, silent and sharp. Emily stood at the top of the stairs, eyes wide. "He's here," she mouthed. David crept to the door, bat gripped tight. But when he opened it, nothing. Just the cold wind, and the faint smell of smoke. On the porch sat a burned photo. The same picture from before, now charred at the edges. Emily stared at it, breath shallow. "He's trying to scare us." David picked it up. "Then he's losing." Claire stepped forward. "He knows he's cornered." They looked at one another, a silent vow passing between them. This wasn't the end. But it was the beginning of Marcus's fall. At midnight, the timer ticked down. 3, Nice. 2, Datter. 1. The file went live. Emily sat beside Claire, gripping her hand tightly. The video posted to a private forum first, then was picked up, shared. Within minutes, comments flooded in. Messages. Support. Died. Stories like hers. And then, silence. Not from her, but from him. No response. No threats. The ghost had gone quiet. Claire whispered, "You did it." Emily looked at the screen, a flood of relief and terror crashing together. "I'm still afraid," she admitted. Claire squeezed her hand. "But you were free." Outside, the wind shifted. The house was still. And for the first time in years, Emily exhaled fully. She hadn't just survived Marcus. She'd exposed him. And that truth was louder than anything he could ever say. By morning, Emily's story had spread. The video had gone viral. News outlets reached out. Advocacy groups. Survivors. Her inbox overflowed, not with fear, but solidarity. She sat at the dining table in silence, scrolling through messages. "You saved me," one read. Another, "I thought I was alone." Claire brought her a cup of tea and sat beside her. "It's a storm now," Emily whispered. Claire nodded. "But this time you're not standing in it alone." David entered, phone to his ear, then mouthed, "Police got him." Claire gasped. Emily stared. "Marcus?" David nodded. "Anonymous tip. Found him hiding in a motel 2 towns over." Emily didn't speak. She closed her eyes. Her hand trembled. And then she cried, not from fear, but release. The nightmare had ended. Later that afternoon, Emily stood alone in the backyard. The wind rustled the trees gently, the sky calm. She stared at the patch of earth where the tin box had been buried. She knelt and laid a new object into the ground, her old photo with Marcus, now torn in half. She whispered, "You don't get to own this part of me anymore." As she covered it with soil, her shoulders lifted. The past hadn't disappeared, but it no longer defined her. From the porch, Claire watched silently, tears in her eyes. David joined her, arm around her waist. "She's different," Claire said softly. David nodded. "She's free." And for the first time, that didn't feel like hope, it felt like truth. Claire helped Emily pack her final bag, not because she had to leave, but because she wanted to begin again. "You sure you want to go?" Claire asked. Emily smiled. "I need to find out who I am without all this weight." "You?" Claire zipped the suitcase. "You're the strongest person I know." Emily chuckled. "You always say that, because it's always true." They hugged tightly. "Where will you go?" Claire asked. "North. Somewhere with trees. Quiet." David appeared in the doorway. "Just promise to write." Emily winked. "Every week." It wasn't goodbye. It was something else. Something better. A closing chapter. And a new one waiting to be written, by her own hand. The front door creaked open as Emily stepped onto the porch, bag over her shoulder, scarf fluttering in the breeze. Claire and David followed her to the curb, standing by as she opened the car door. "Are you scared?" Claire asked quietly. Emily looked out over the horizon. "Yes, but it's the good kind of scared." She hugged them both one last time, then slid into the driver's seat. As the engine started, Claire placed a hand on the window. "You'll always have a home here." Emily smiled through the glass. "And now, I finally believe it." The car pulled away. Claire and David stood in the driveway, watching until the taillights disappeared. The silence left behind was warm, not empty. She was gone. But she was okay. That night, Claire stood at the window with a mug in hand, watching stars blink into existence. The house was quieter now, but not lonely. David wrapped his arms around her from behind. "Do you think she'll be okay?" he asked. Claire took a deep breath. "I do. For the first time, I really do." Below, the wind stirred the leaves. In the guest room, now empty, the bed remained made, the air still. But on the nightstand sat something new, a journal Emily had left behind. Claire walked in, opened the cover. The first line read, "This is the beginning." And that was all it needed to say. Outside, a shooting star cut across the sky. Not an ending. A transformation. A truth unburied.